Gary Neville, your friend and mine. In fact, we're staying in his hotel, are we not, on Friday night?
Which I'm most unhappy about.
Thursday night, Friday night and Saturday night.
Indeed.
So, I mean, that'll be an interesting checkout bill. Gary has claimed that he knows the identities of those who are leaking details from inside the Manchester United camp. A snitch in the dressing room. The leak, he says they're at it. Players' agents, PR teams, marketing teams as a self-preservation for their own player. Unfortunately, when they go to the media, then those media people go to us. Don't know who that means, him and somebody else.
Yeah,
so we know who's briefing. It's downright disrespectful. I think it's disgusting. I mean, when you were at Palace, was there
Gary Neville,
mole?
a.k.a. Julian Assange. Look, I mean, from that point of view, it happens in most dressing rooms. I don't know how the Barrack Room lawyer has the brass neck to suggest that other people can speak about things. Yeah, he does it all the time.
Yeah.
But there is a culture inside clubs, especially with disillusioned players that feel that something hasn't gone their way, and it's been there since time immemorial. There's just more outlets, more content requirement, and more people that have got ears for it.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, it's something, what Gary's basically saying is that the sanctum and is so important. The inner sanctum of Manchester United, it's unique. It should never be permeated. It should never be perforated by people breaking the code of talking out of turn. Or using back channels. Well, it's gone on for a very long time. I don't like it. I don't think it's right. It happened to me at Palace on the eve of arguably the biggest game of my tenure to that point, which was the playoff final against West Ham. And I was home in Spain, coming back. It's actually a couple of days after Alan Brazil and Mike Parry did an obscene evening at Crystal Palace, which was not the nicest of comments they made about my fan base and me, but we've dealt with that in with Parry and with Alan Brazil. But going back to the point at hand,
had a drink been taken?
Yeah, well, yeah. When is there not drink involved with those two?
Yeah.
But the bottom line was that a particular player, and I knew who it was, but I couldn't pin it down, had sold an article or done an article with a newspaper talking about the bonuses at Crystal Palace hadn't been paid, which wasn't true. And it was a double-page splash all over the Mirror on the eve of the playoff game, citing chaos at Crystal Palace with players potentially threatening not to play against West Ham
because bonuses hadn't been paid.
Because bonuses hadn't been paid.
And they had been.
Of course they had been paid. And the bonuses were paid annually, so they weren't entitled to be paid at that particular moment in time because the season hadn't finished. So it was some argument about semantics and a particular player.
You know who the player was?
I do, and I dealt with him afterwards. But at the time, it was a double-page spread, and it infuriated me. It involved me suing a newspaper and them having to pay compensation for defamation, which went off to charity. But it's that kind of culture that exists. It's the agents. Well, Gary, I listened to Gary yesterday, and I liked a lot of what he said, because there is an element of respect and loyalty. If you don't like something, then you sometimes in life you just have to get on with it. But the back channeling of people's motivations, unseating managers, rumours coming out about players that want to select Pochettino rather than play for Ranić, all of that stuff is culturally representative of a club that's not going in the right direction.
Yeah.
And it goes to the point that we were making with somebody in the upper echelons of their management about the toxicity of the dressing room. Now, you can see when a club goes into a period of change, and especially a club that's so media-focused as Manchester United, it is, they've got their... We were talking laughably, weren't we, about 2-3 weeks ago, maybe a little bit longer, about their head of PR spinning out content to meet the expectations of the fan base.
Sure.
They follow a trend of what the fans like to hear, and then they spin out a particular anecdote from a player or set of circumstances that meets that expectation. A lot of the things that Gary says are right. I don't always like the order in which he advances them, but I do think a lot of the things he says are right. And there is a culture, but you were part of this culture. You were a Barrack Room lawyer as a player. You believed that players had a right to say what they wanted when they wanted, and you did it regularly. You were the one, I think, that was at the front of the queue suggesting that they all should go on strike when Rio Ferdinand was being dealt with about certain transgressions in his career.
But come on, Simon, did owners in the past, maybe now, use the media as well? Just put something out there. Maybe not owners, chief exec.
I don't know if that's
right.
Put
it out there to a friend in the media.
Well, it depends. Look, I mean,
once
upon a time, the best owners that you have are the ones you never heard from. So you can't contradict that by saying that owners use the media. Owners tend to step away from the media. It tends to be managers and players, and certainly more so these days, agents.
Yeah.
That are utilising the media to impart messages.
Yeah.
And it's all down to the culture of getting the balance right between acknowledging the importance of players, acknowledging the maturity of players, acknowledging the value of players, at the same time as understanding that there is a way to behave and not to behave. You can't muzzle these players now. But by the same token, they can't run around saying what they want when they want.
The guy who leaked the story to, was it the Mirror, you said, all these years ago, who was at Palace? He was a player at Palace?
He was.
What was his reason behind it? Did he want to unsettle the club? Did he want to unsettle you?
Yeah, I just don't think he was happy with his lot. And he was a divisive little sod anyway, and I dealt with him the next year by offering him a contract that was less than the one he was on in the Championship in the Premier League, and smiling at his agent whilst I did it. Because the balance of power had changed.
Did he sign it?
Once upon a time, we were a Championship club that needed his services. When you were a Premier League club, it's a different landscape. Right. So I had the pleasure of letting him know that he was going to be getting less, not more, less.
And he accepted it?
He really didn't have anywhere else to go. He had plenty of places to go, but they wouldn't have been in the Premier League. They would have been in the Championship. So yes, he accepted it reluctantly.
Yeah. It's part and parcel of the game, though, isn't it? I mean, there are always going to be leaks coming out of dressing rooms. I don't think it's anything that you can stop. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, these ones that are coming out of Man United at this moment in time are just a little bit. I think they're a little bit too much, because they're really going to the culture of undermining everything that this manager's trying to do.
Yeah.
And undermining the whole progress of the club. But then again, tune out to it, because the people that are making these observations are most of the time the disenfranchised, and they're going anyway.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.